Hello, everybody. Let me tell you a new story today. My first-hand experience. To the west of my maternal grandma's house is a row of houses, and to the west of that row is a pond, but now is another row of houses. In recent years, with the water level dropping and the population increasing, the once clear pond was abandoned and filled with a lot of slag, and the houses were built on it. It was a deep pit that was manually dug more than 30 years ago. At that time, the government was vigorously developing aquaculture and the people also used the resources at hand. This place was originally a pit, so it was better to dig it into a fish pond. It did not take long for the fish pond to be dug, about 3 or 4 meters deep, with a large number of willows and locust trees planted around it. First, the homeowners around were afraid that heavy rain would wash out a large gully, and second, to consolidate the soil and water so that the fish pond would not silt up too quickly. The fish farming business went smoothly for a few years. Every summer, children from the surrounding areas would go there to play. Many of them, they would see who was more daring, climbing up to the big willow tree on the edge and diving down. The diving competition was to see who could make the smallest splash. But they played to see who could make the biggest one. A group of naked children played there every day. Finally, something happened. A child dived headfirst and did not come up for a long time. At first, the other children did not mind, as he was a good swimmer. But after a while, they became anxious because he still hadn't surfaced. The children frantically called the adults, who went down into the water and dragged the child up. By that time, the child was already dead. It turned out that he had dived too deep and directly hit the web-like roots of the willow trees. Those roots, like chains, locked the innocent child in the water. Within a few minutes, he had turned from an active child into a drowned soul in a deep pond. The child's father was frantic like a raging lion, wishing he could tear himself apart, while the mother cried and fainted repeatedly. People pinned their hopes on an ancient legend, placing the child on the back of an ox and circling the village could bring him back to life. So they brought in an old ox, and the child's body lay on its back, circling the village over and over again. But unfortunately, the child was still gone. At noon, the sun shone on the child's body, gleaming. He was only 12 years old. Later, as the drought in Shandong became more severe, people drilled wells in the fields, and the groundwater level kept dropping. So the water in the fish pond naturally decreased as well. The fish were caught by the fish farmers, and the fish pond was abandoned. But I was thinking about the loaches in the mud. Digging for loaches and catching cicadas were my favorite activities. Even though I couldn't swim, I came to a conclusion. Under normal circumstances, those who drowned were all good swimmers, except for floods and accidental falls into the water. But there are hardly any floods in Shandong, and generally, as long as you stay away from the water, you won't fall in accidentally. My cousin and I went to dig for loaches. I don't remember which year it was, probably the second or the third year after the child died. The remaining water was pitifully little, and most of the fish had died, except for the snakehead and loaches, especially the loaches. It is said that they can burrow into the ground, seal their respiratory system, and rely on their skin for oxygen. Their bodies become stiff and enter a state of hibernation, and they won't die for years. Once they are in water again, they will become lively immediately and jump around, with no problems at all. I think this rumor is true. I remember when I was a child, after a heavy rain, the ditches south of my elementary school were full of water, which were usually dry. The next day, I saw loaches as long as a palm fighting for food. These loaches were very strong, with a golden body and a dark red line on their backs. They were definitely not the grey loaches we see in the market, nor could they have grown in a day. It was really fun to dig for loaches when the pond or pool was almost dry, but not completely dry. With one shovel, the mud was turned over, and these silly creatures were exposed. Then they would frantically try to burrow back into the mud. You grab their tails and pull them out. But adults don't dig for loaches. When there was plenty of water, they would use nets to catch fish. When the water was low, they would catch them by hand or use a small lifting net, commonly known as picking dry fish. This picking dry fish is what people like the most. I participated a few times when I was a child. My father and uncles went down the river to catch fish, and they threw the fish onto the shore. I, barefoot, dragged a bag on the shore to collect the fish. Okay, back to my story. In a short while, my cousin and I had a good harvest. We caught many of the loaches. The small basin was full, and we went home happily. My grandma cooked the loaches for us at noon. These loaches have almost no bones, just spines on their backs. After removing the entrails, they were salted, coated with corn meal, and slowly fried in a little oil in a pan. The aroma was mouth-watering. To be honest, I haven't tasted such delicious food for a long time. Unfortunately, after finishing this delicious meal, I fell ill. I kept having a fever and talking bullshit. My grandma was really worried because I was her grandson. Her thinking was, it's okay for the grandson to come to her home and enjoy himself. But if he falls ill, it is a big responsibility. So he called a doctor, who was a barefoot doctor from her village. He said it was caused by unclean food and gave me some medicine. I was still in a daze in the evening, and my condition became worse. Let me explain barefoot doctor. Barefoot doctors were rural health workers in China, active mainly from the 1960s to 1980s. With a few months of basic medical training, they provided essential health care to millions in remote villages. They treated common illnesses, promoted preventive care, and supported maternal and child health using simple tools and local remedies. They significantly reduced mortality rates and helped control infectious diseases like malaria and pneumonia. Their work laid the foundation of China's rural health system and was praised by the WHO as a model for primary health care in developing countries. Why barefoot? They were half farmers and half doctors. That's the reason. My grandma was really anxious. In the evening, when my third granduncle came to visit, he was good at saying possessed by a ghost. He felt my pulse and said that I had collided with the ghost of the drowned child. As long as we burnt some paper money at midnight to send him away, the illness would naturally get better. My grandma followed his arrangement, went out of her own house, faced south, burned some paper, and sent away the little ghost. my illness got better. But the matter was not over. Later, my aunt, who lived by the fish pond, fell ill several times. She would get better after treatment, but then fell ill again. It turned out that the child's ghost had not been exorcised and was still wandering around. Later, it was said that he often hid behind her front door. The reason my aunt kept falling ill was that he was dissatisfied with his fate and wanted money from people. That was the villager's final conclusion. I felt it was pitiful, all alone, unable to reincarnate. He made me sick, but I just felt uncomfortable, without any other bad reactions, no pain or itching, and I was not afraid. After getting the money, he left her quietly, just as he had come quietly. Now the fish pond is gone, and people have built houses on it. The willow tree that took his life has long been cut down to be used as a beam in someone's house. Where is he now? Where has he gone? These are not the questions I can answer. Okay, everybody, this is the end of the story. Please share what you think of this story and your stories. If you enjoy my work and would like to help me continue to bring this story to you, please subscribe to my channel or like to my page. Give us thumbs up to the stories you appreciate and share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'd love to read them. Share the stories with anyone who might find them enjoyable. And I need a co-editor, everybody, a native English speaker to make these stories better. Thank you, everyone. This is Alex's Story Time, and I am Alex. I got a lot of good stories to share with you. So, see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.